Hey, what's up, everybody? Seamount4Life here. Look, I get asked frequently in my streams about my thoughts on PGA 2K23 and what I would like to see improved upon or added in the next iteration, PGA Tour 2K25. With that game likely releasing in the next 12 months or so, I felt like now is the perfect time to talk about this and just really get all my thoughts in one place. I want to make a quick note though before we get started. I am not a course designer at all, so I'm not going to be discussing the course designer at all in this video. I just ask that HB gives the course designer community whatever they are asking for, please. But what we will be discussing in this video is gameplay improvements I want to see and just how we can improve upon what we do in this game. The modes, my player, my career, multiplayer, etc. So here we go. Here is my wish list for PGA Tour 2K25. Cheers. Ah, yes, the water hazard drop. It's been 5 games, and it's never consistently worked. 3 of those games even had the PGA license. I'm not even asking for it to work 100% of the time. I get the designer brings some challenges to this and some inconsistencies. I'm just asking that it works most of the time. I shouldn't be constantly assessed with what is essentially an out of bounds penalty just because I go into the water in this game. I know it's not a sexy fix, but I am just simply tired of this never working. Please, please, please figure this out for 2K25. I mean, look at this. I go into the water by the green, and this thing puts me across the water. I don't even know where the pin is. It takes me like 5 to 10 seconds to even know where I'm at on the course and where the pin is in terms of the drop. The swing mechanic in 2K23 is very good. It's arguably the best part of the game outside of maybe the course designer. And for me, it's the main reason I still enjoy playing the game. However, I think it has one glaring problem. The swing animation is completely out of sync with the power meter. Check how late the swing animation moves in this. Really, really late. Now here's a full pitching wedge here, normal swing. Look how late that is. What's that, 10 to 20% of the power meter before it even moves? Now, this of course is not as big of a deal on full swings, but becomes problematic as you get lower into your bag and into the short game. So here's a flop shot. Look how late that moves. And here is where it's at its worst, chipping. Look at how far that power meter moves before the club even moves. What's that, 10 to 20% into the chipping? And this becomes blatantly obvious the moment you disable the power meter. It's brutal. And then putting isn't too bad, but still it's probably 8 to 12% or so before that putter even moves. So it completely takes the feel out of the swing, it makes it way more twitchy, and it greatly impacts the short game and makes partials really tough. What's crazy about it is, in 2K21, the swing animation and power meter are perfectly synced up. So that's why in 2K21, the swing actually feels better. It definitely looks better in 23, but it feels better in 21, especially the short game. And you really, really notice it when you put them side by side with 2K21 on the right and 23 on the left. Look at that. Look how much better and more in sync that 2K21 animation is. So I really, really want this fixed in 2K25. Also, this highlights a concern of mine, and I've actually had this concern for much of 2K23's life cycle. My concern is, I think the swing mechanic has become way too reliant on the power meter. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind that the power meter exists. It's great for approachability and to appeal to the masses. But this entire franchise was founded on a swing mechanic that boasted about having no meters. A swing mechanic focused on feel and touch and rhythm. And now it's a swing mechanic that damn near requires the power meter to function properly. So much so that it isn't even disabled when you play on Legend difficulty. In fact, it's the only swing aid on the entire difficulty menu that isn't designed to eventually be turned off. Think about that. That tells me that even HB knows the game's swing mechanic doesn't work properly without the power meter, which is a big shame. I really want HB to revisit their old philosophy on the swing mechanic in 2K25 and focus on playability without the power meter. It feels like a crutch at this point. Obviously, many will still choose to use the power meter, and that's okay, but treat it like every other swing aid that's in this game. One that's designed to teach your players how the game works, but also slowly conditioning them to eventually not need it. Here's my wish. I want 2K25's swing mechanic to feel so good and play so well that even players on amateur difficulty will choose to disable the power meter. Generally, I like what they did with the swing line in 2K23. They weighted its impact way more than they did in 2K21. And when you're trying to mimic the million variables of a golf swing into a short controller flick, every input matters. However, my issue is a very specific penalty that they added to emulate inside-out or outside-in swing misses. This swing penalty will push balls left or right 6 yards minimum automatically if any of your swing line is on both the left and the right of the white swing line zone. Now on lower difficulties, this makes way more sense because that sort of miss looks like this. This actually looks and feels like it warrants a 6-yard minimum penalty. However, this gets extremely frustrating on higher difficulties where the margin for error is very, very slim. On Master and Legend difficulty, it's almost impossible to swing without getting a few pixels on either side of the white zone. Now, I like the idea of the penalty, but the severity of the enforcement feels like it makes sense only at the lower difficulties. And then as you increase difficulty and go from Pro to Master to Legend, it feels like it makes less sense. So my wish here in 2K25, I'd like them to kind of rethink the enforcement of this penalty. Make it more of a granular thing instead of just a baked-in distance. And most importantly, be more mindful of swing line penalties as you increase the swing difficulty to make sure they feel fair and balanced on Master and Legend. I'm hopeful that PGA 2K25 moves to current gen only so they can leave the old PS4 and Xbox One processors behind. That should allow them to improve the physics across the board, which is sorely needed. Here are a few things that I hope get addressed. First and foremost, the Velcro fringes need to die in a fire. I am so tired of dealing with these. And really, any balls that stop on yellow, orange, or even red slopes. This happens on the green and in the fairway all too often in 2K23. Generally, I just want to see better bounce and roll physics across the board when it comes to all of the different surfaces. Fairway, light rough, heavy rough, fringe, etc. Hopefully, they just borrow from EA PGA Tour's playbook when it comes to this, as that game's physics engine seems to handle most of these situations much, much better. Although 2K's putting and cup physics are far superior. It's time for PGA 2K to take the next gen leap. EA PGA Tour is stunning, and I want that for PGA 2K25. Honestly, I'm not expecting that kind of glow up. Frostbite is a monster, and EA had years of textures and artwork that were already built for their Battlefield series to just pull into their golf game. But HB needs to take the next step with Unity and make visual improvements across the board. I'm talking textures, lighting, shadows, animations, skyboxes, more detailed galleries, non-static objects out on the course. You name it, let's upgrade the visuals on it. I will say though, for the console crowd, please be sure to launch with a 60 FPS performance mode. Frame rate should always be the priority for this series. Alright, this is a bit of an odd one, but look at the top right in the HUD. It says that the putt is 1 foot uphill, but the marker on the cup says it's only 7 inches uphill. Now, I'm good with the game giving approximate elevation numbers, especially on longer putts. The issue is, it has to be the same for everyone. Now watch as it switches over to the metric system. It now gives the exact elevation in the HUD and on the marker, so it either needs to be exact for both or approximate for both. Sorry, Euro peeps. So here's a couple of new options or toggles I would love to get added in PGA 2K25. The first one is a toggle for the swing aid vibration. The options would be on, off, or putting only. Now, the swing aid vibration, for those that don't know, is when you pull back your swing to the desired percentage and then your controller rumbles. Now, I personally play with this off, and I have since 2K21. And I would love to be able to disable this within my own society, as it gives a huge competitive advantage, especially without the power meter active. Now, having the putting only option, I think, is a great way to kind of wean players off of it and kind of help with that steep learning curve of disabling it. So maybe an example would be on pro difficulty level, it would be on master difficulty level, it would be putting only, and then on legend, it would be disabled or off. Something like that. All right, next, I would like to add a toggle for live percentage visibility in the HUD. And the options would be on, off, or bunker only. Now, personally, the more exact math we can remove from this game, the better. How this one would work is you would still be able to kind of see your own lie, right? You would see that you're in the fairway or light rough or heavy rough or wherever you have landed. But the live percentage window that's up in the HUD, the one that impacts your club distance, that would be removed. So you wouldn't know what that is. You wouldn't be able to see it. This would really put a premium on staying in the fairways. And the bunkers only option, again, is a nice way to kind of wean players off of it. So again, maybe pro has it on, like we've always had it. Maybe master has bunker only, and then maybe legend has it completely off. Also, kind of trying to future-proof this, bunkers can be pretty tricky considering you don't really have a good idea of how buried you are sometimes. So that bunkers only might be a good middle ground between having it on and not having it on. All right, the third toggle I would love to see them add would be a toggle for elevation precision in the HUD. And the options would be on, off, or rounded. Now, this also would take some of the exact math out of the game, and it might add a couple yards of variance on elevation type shots, right? So basically, if you set it to rounded, it would give an approximation of an elevation change. So if you have a shot that's uphill 3 feet, it would say instead of 3 feet uphill, it would say approximately 5 feet uphill. And then on severe downhill uphill shots, it would maybe round to the nearest 10 or something like that. So maybe if it's uphill 43 feet, it would display uphill approximately 50 feet. And maybe uphill always rounds up and downhill always rounds down, just to at least get some consistency there. I think this would be pretty cool. Like I said, just so it's not exact, it's pretty rare to be on a golf course hitting your shot and you know it's exactly 8 feet uphill, or that a shot is exactly 42 feet downhill. All right, so there you have it. Those are the 3 things I would love to see added to the difficulty menu in PGA Tour 2K25. I would absolutely love to see dynamic weather and day-night cycles added to PGA 2K25. It would be so awesome to be out on the course and have like light rain roll in and out during your round. Or maybe you start the round in the afternoon and then at the end of your round, you're on 18 and it's sunset. I'm not quite sure how that would happen. Maybe time passes 10 or 15 minutes per hole or something like that. But HB, let's make it happen. In PGA 2K25, please allow us to finally control the conditions that are on the range when we're training. Let us adjust the wind speed, the direction, the fairway and green firmness, the green speeds, all that stuff. For the love of God, let me pull the pin from anywhere on the course. Please add Steam cloud saves for my Player profile. I just want to move back and forth between my Steam Deck and my PC without losing every single one of my fittings. I know I can move the profile file manually, but maybe just put it in the cloud, and that way I'd never have to do it again. That would be amazing. All right, guys, it's my player time, and we have a lot to unpack here. First thing, we need way more customization options. I mean, 2K23 wasn't too bad, but you can always have more. The two biggest things I would like to see them add is a weight slider, which was a head-scratching omission from 2K23, and custom swing animations, which they have in EA PGA Tour. Not only would I like more default swing options to choose from, but I would love access to all the pros and celebs swing animations that are already in the game. HB could add these to the Pro Shop, they could have them in future Clubhouse passes, or just simply have them in the game and maybe they're earned through gameplay. Whatever they end up doing, I just want access to them and I want to be able to have them in the My Player customization. I loved grinding for them, but they aren't as impactful as they should be. Half the time I forget they're even active. Plus, you get way too many points and end up being able to buy all the skills that matter anyways. Some of this is aided by the fact that they have an entire row of skills dedicated to hybrids. They should have just put the hybrids in with the woods. I mean, why would you spend all these points on one club when instead you can just use a 3-iron and then spend those points everywhere else? In PGA 2K25, I would like to see either more skills or less points to spend. That way it forces players to make tougher choices, which should then create more unique skill sets out on the course. I think one of the best additions to 2K23 was the Archetypes and fittings. And for the most part, they executed this pretty well considering it was their first time. But unfortunately, the concern that we all had at launch came true. No matter which archetype we started with, we all just ended up in the same spot. Powerhouse players just used rhythm fittings to offset their weaknesses. Rhythm players just used power fittings to offset their weaknesses, and so on. The bottom line is, the archetypes need to matter more. I would love a system in 2K25 where you can't be great at everything, where you don't have access to everything, where having strengths forces you into having weaknesses. Maybe the archetype you choose determines the floors and ceilings of certain stats. So for instance, you want to be a powerhouse and have 100 power, well then your timing and swing path stats are now capped at 65. I'd love to see certain stats or archetypes determine your access to certain mechanics or even shot types within the game. For instance, the putting stats would determine the size of the green grid squares. EA PGA Tour does this and it's great. Or another example would be the shaping stat determines how much access you have to the shot shaping tool. So a lower shaping stat would limit how much loft you can put on your clubs. They could even start tying this into the archetypes. Maybe only the woodsman archetype has access to the punch shot, or maybe only the sculptor archetype can get full usage of the shot shaper. Or maybe the greensman archetype has smaller green grids so they can read greens better. I think the overall goal with this for 2K25 should be to force players to make tough decisions with their My Player builds. Heavily lean into strengths versus weaknesses, or a give and take philosophy to force more unique builds. More viable strategies and unique styles will emerge. Oh, and one final thing with the fittings. Please improve the interface for dealing with all of them. Let me mark fittings as trash or something, so I can deconstruct, exchange, or upgrade them in bulk. And let me sort by level within rarities, so I don't have to go sifting around looking for my plus 12s and plus 11s. I'd rather they just scrap the ball sleeves altogether, but I'm guessing they aren't going anywhere, so here's my take. The idea on paper, I think, is fine, right? There are dozens of different balls in real life, and they all play differently. But the implementation and execution of the ball sleeves in 2K23 was just awful. They were terribly balanced because somehow HB thought having less bounce and less roll were a negative thing. And the roll stat in general just needs to go away. The ball sleeves should never, ever change green speeds for putting. Overall, they were just way too impactful on stats. They need to be better balanced, and have more subtle impact if they're going to bring the ball sleeves back for 2K25. I really want them to add golf bag customizations. In EA PGA Tour, you can customize the design of your bag, the strap, your towel, and even the head covers. Would love that in 2K25. Also, let me create and save different golf bag loadouts so I can easily pick them before rounds. Playing a shorter course? Well, I'll just switch to the bag with an extra wedge. Playing a longer course? Well, now I'll use the bag that has an extra wood or hybrid. It would be amazing. I want more caddy customization. The customization should be just like creating your My Player. You should be able to save different outfits for different days and different modes, and then just add some caddy gear to the pro shop. Call it a day. I actually like the clubhouse passes, although most of it isn't really for me because I'm not super into the swag. So I wouldn't mind if these made a return in 2K25. But the one thing I'll say here is I think they need to take notes on what Helldivers 2 has been doing here with their war bonds and make it so all of the clubhouse passes are always available and never have an expiration date. Please add more neon green clothing items to the pro shop. Thank you. And finally, I would really love to level past 50 in this game. I don't need to earn anything new or any more skills or any new rewards, but it would just be nice if the leveling system was uncapped and I could just continue to level and level and level. I don't know, maybe add a prestige or something like that. Let me show the world how big of a PGA 2K nerd I am. Okay, so before we dive into the modes, I wanted to make a blanket statement for everything moving forward in this section. All the pro golfers and celebrity golfers in PGA 2K23 were criminally underutilized. Tiger Woods, he's the cover athlete, best golfer of all time, and you barely even see him in his own game. I'm asking and I'm hoping that this changes in PGA 2K25. And just like we saw in EA PGA Tour, I want to have the ability to play against AI versions of all of the available golfers on the roster in every available mode in 2K25. Topgolf was a lackluster mode in 2K23. Here are some ways to improve it for 2K25. First off, they need to add more modes, more locales, and at the very least give me a nighttime option so I can bask in the glow of the Vegas Strip. I mean, they have a bunch of other modes you can play in real life. Closest to the Pin, Quick 9, Top Shot, Angry Birds. All of these modes would be a lot of fun in the game. Maybe add a party mode where you can have like 30 people in a lobby all playing at once. Basically Divot Derby lobby, but for Topgolf. Maybe even add ranked modes for all the Topgolf modes. Any of this would be a huge improvement to the mode in 2K25. All right, for Divot Derby in 2K25, let the lobby codes work for all 20 players instead of just 4. This would make it so much easier to play with the community on my stream. More so, I would love to have private lobbies, so I can just simply pick the course, the conditions, the swing difficulty, or maybe play 18 holes of Divot Derby. How about we go ahead and just maybe add a new game mode to Divot Derby? Here's one I've been thinking about. Nobody gets eliminated, but instead you get points for where you place on each hole. And then the player at the end of the round, whether that's 9 holes or 18 holes, wins. And what's cool about this mode is you probably could play this with 2 players, 4 players, 10 players, 20 players, right? And finally, let's just get crazy with this. Let's add Divot Derby to Ranked. Ranked mode has been a pleasant surprise for me. I have had a blast playing through each season both in solo and in duos with G-Dog. Here's a few things I'd like to see them add in 2K25 for Ranked. They either need to balance the 3-click and the swing stick appropriately, or they need to put them in separate queues. I also would like to see them create a new online or ranked difficulty that is a mix of pro and master settings, preferably disabling all of the provision aids. Gameplay-wise, please remove the info in the top right that shows the exact live percentage of the person hitting and the club they're using. Your partners and stream snipers should not have access to this information. Don't allow people to chip on the greens, please. And I think you should streamline the experience and remove all of these constant button pushing between holes and between rounds. And finally, I do love the ranking system that you guys came up with, going from bogey to condor, but I do think it would be fitting to add an additional rank above condor and name it Tiger. Cross-platform societies is probably my #1 ask. It would be massive. Imagine this leaderboard having PlayStation, Xbox, and PC players on it. I am really hoping that HP can pull this off in 2K25. Now, functionality-wise for societies, first, I would love for them to raise the cap on the number of societies I can be in at once. Second, it would be fantastic if I could edit events that have not started yet, instead of being stuck with a one-round event that week because I fat-fingered a button on accident. Also, allow me to moderate comments or maybe disable them on the homepage. And finally, if ball sleeves are a thing in 2K25, let me choose which level of ball sleeves are available to the players in my society. So instead of disabling them across the board, I could only allow gray and green, for instance, and then block the other ones. I would love to see them add an official tournaments mode in PGA 2K25. I know there's a 2K society that kinda does this, but the whole thing has always felt so underbaked. I'm talking about having multiple 2K societies for every available difficulty level. That way you can run dailies, weeklies, and even seasonal events all year round. You could even do separate ones for 3-click if you wanted to. Would love to see them add challenges. These were such an awesome idea in EA PGA Tour, so might as well steal it and get something like this added to 2K25. It's great additional single-player content for your My Player. Could even integrate it into My Career if you wanted to. Maybe each course has its own set of challenges, and as you add courses post-launch, you also add challenges for those new courses. And as fun as these were in EA's game, they would be so much more rewarding and challenging with PGA 2K's swing mechanic. Now, while you're at it, let's also add player moments as well. As I've already stated, the professional golfers on the roster in 2K23 were severely underutilized. This would be a great way to add value and give players reasons to play as the pros on the roster. Maybe every pro has like 5 to 10 moments to play through. I mean, Tiger could have like a dozen on his own. I say just drop me on 17 at Sawgrass as Tiger and see if I can make the better than most putt. I mean, how rad would that be? I realize this could be limited by the golfers and courses that you have available in the game, but I think there's enough overlap of both of those to make it work. Next, let's go ahead and add a match play 1v1 Mortal Kombat style tower mode. This will be another way to utilize your golfer's roster in a fun way and highlight playing, hopefully, against AI opponents in real time. Have it pull most of the tower spots from the roster pool, so any post-launch golfers will just simply get added into the mix. And of course, Tiger Woods is at the top. You could even implement this into career mode for your rivalry system if you wanted to. Hot Shots Golf did this way back in the day, and I loved it. You eventually would play against Sweet Tooth or Sir Dan or Gex, and they were really tough to beat. It was a blast. And finally, let's get an official mini golf mode added in 2K25. We already have some super creative mini golf courses in 2K23. It would be so awesome to have some of these become officially ported over or even build new ones for 2K25. You would have to allow designers to label these courses as mini golf in the designer, so that way they could be easily searchable and only allow putters to be used on them. I think this would be way cooler than Topgolf, especially since the community will be building these courses. And who knows, maybe Tiger will let us use the Pop Stroke name for it. Imagine playing mini golf with or against an AI Tiger Woods. You're welcome. The career mode in 2K23 was a big letdown, especially coming from 2K21. The most impactful improvement wasn't even the mode itself, but the addition of the My Player skills and fittings grind that greatly enhanced the career experience. I would really love to see the career mode take a huge leap forward in 2K25. Here's some ways I think that can happen. First, they have to secure the licensing for the 4 majors. It is a must. The Legends Championship, the Golf Club Championship, the Northwest Championship, and the Royal Championship simply do not cut it. I don't know how available they all are, but it's such a huge blind spot for this game, and especially this mode. It really does impact the immersion, the presentation, and just the overall enjoyment of the entire career. Not to mention, you're missing out on incredible courses like Augusta, Valhalla, Oakmont, Royal Troon, Royal Portrush, which are all hosting majors over the next couple of years. Even if 2K25's career mode was exactly the same as 2K23's, but had the 4 majors, it would be a massive upgrade. That's how important this is. Second, I want full integration of AI golfers in career mode. No more of this cutscene bullshit. I should be able to play against the AI versions of any pros on the roster. This would make the final round pairings so much better. Imagine being tied with Tiger on a Sunday, standing on the 18th tee box, and then you just watch him stripe one right down the middle. I guarantee you there's going to be a lot more nerves in that next swing that you take. Versus what we currently have, which is you see a cutscene 4 holes prior, and then you just simply forget that Tiger is even on the course with you. Third, I would absolutely love if they added more interactive story elements like we see in other sports games. How cool would it be if you had a couple of unique backstories to choose from when you started your career? Some examples would be a local head pro like Michael Block or Roy McAvoy from Tin Cup. Kind of an everyday man that catches a break. Or another one would be a child prodigy like Tiger Woods, the anointed one. Can you live up to the hype and chase down Jack's records? And the third one would be you're a middling PGA pro who had a terrible year and you just lost your tour card. So you're essentially having to start all the way over from the bottom again. Kind of a last chance at greatness or a redemption story. Basically, you would choose one of these 3 backstory arcs for your My Player and then start your career. Each one, while relatively similar in structure, plays out a little bit differently and has unique events. Maybe each one plays in different tournaments, or ends up interacting with different celebrities, or gets involved in unique situations. I think that would be pretty rad, and it would incentivize people to play through multiple times to experience the different backstories. And finally, I want to see them leverage and integrate every part of the game into career mode. So Topgolf, rivalries, sponsorships, course designer, celebrities, and if they add anything like challenges, match play versus AI, mini golf, etc. Essentially weaving all of these in and out every couple of weeks during the career season. Here's a bunch of examples of what I mean. So let's say week 3, you're in your PGA season. It's a Monday. You get a text from Steph Curry unexpectedly. He's playing in a televised 2v2 match play event that night, and his playing partner ate some bad sushi and is out sick. He needs you to fill in as his partner. Of course you accept. That launches you straight into a 2v2 match play versus AI mode. You and Steph Curry versus Michael Jordan and Tony Finau. Essentially 2K's version of the match. Couple weeks later, maybe it's week 8, you get another text, this time from Tiger Woods. He asks you to play mini golf with him to test out his new Sunday red putter. You accept. It loads into the new mini golf mode with an AI Tiger Woods. 5 weeks later, your rival Justin Thomas texts you before the tournament that week. Doesn't want to wait until Thursday. Instead, challenges you to a high roller game of skins that night. You accept. It launches you into a skins game versus an AI Justin Thomas. 3 weeks later, you have a sponsorship event. You get a call from Cobra. They ask you to go down to the local Topgolf and compete against the Barstool guys. You accept. It launches you straight into Topgolf. You're playing the new closest to the pin mode against the AI Barstool guys. All of them. Next, it's the week of the players. You get a text from Dude Perfect. They ask you to meet them on the 17th hole at Sawgrass, and they challenge you to a hole-in-one contest. You accept. It launches you into the new challenges mode, where you have 10 shots to get a hole-in-one on the famous Island Green. And the last example. Gareth Bale is funding a course that is currently under construction. He texts you. He needs help placing the pins on the new course. You accept. It launches you straight into the designer, and it has you place 3 pins on 3 greens, and then you have to test those greens using your pin placements. You get the idea here. Now, of course, you don't have to accept all these. You can decline them if you want, but there will be incentives to do them, like skill boosts for the upcoming PGA rounds that week, or maybe unique clubs or balls or swag items. There's just so much that you can do with this, and imagine how perfect this would pair with the backstories recommendation I made earlier. You could easily think of exclusive events that only happen during certain backstory experiences. Obviously, parts of this are theoretical, but you get the idea, and that idea is pretty sound. I want HB to fully utilize every aspect of their game and inject those elements into career mode in 2K25. If they do, they could craft some pretty unique career experiences utilizing these ideas. And most importantly, it would be a blast. All right, so there it is. There's my wish list for PGA Tour 2K25. I really appreciate you guys watching. And of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And most importantly, let me know what you want as your top 5 wish list items. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to stop by any of my live streams Tuesday nights at 7:30 Pacific time and Saturdays at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. I'll see you soon. Cheers.